I'm Kat Bagg. I'm an independent curator and producer based in Cornwall, and I'm one half of the founding team of Field Notes. We're a small organisation that connects art, artists and communities. Tender Acts was commissioned by Arts and Culture at the University of Exeter about a year ago. It's an expansive art project which Field Notes have been creating, shaping with artist Georgia Gendall and then lots of other artists who live and work in Cornwall in various different parts of the commission. We've been working on Penryn campus, meeting with different staff and students and creating different encounters with art. When Georgia and I first looked at the brief for this project, it was called Civic Joy. And we spent quite a lot of time before applying to the brief and even more time after being taken on to manage the project, talking about what that actually meant and having conversations with people about what they understood the word civic to mean and for what it means in relation to a university campus and a place where there are different communities but gathered primarily for academic and work purposes. And there's a lot to be drawn out and a lot of interest in that, but it felt very weighty. And actually, if we were to think about this commission as bringing joy and well-being and kind of interrupting and making interventions in campus life, we felt that it needed something gentler as a title, and so we renamed it Tender Acts, partly because that was what we felt that we could bring to the campus, was small interventions, small moments of thinking about things differently, being in spaces together in a sort of gentle, kind and tender way. So one of the aims of this commission was that we would arrive on campus and our presence would be felt and known, and that to me is quite a challenge because normally I try and begin a project with a stage of research and conversations which would be quieter and more unseen. But together Georgia and I worked out some strategies of things that we thought might begin to introduce the idea that we were here to people on campus, whilst also helping us to make connections that could inform the latter stages of the project. One of the first things we did was we'll call it a poster campaign, but a series of artworks that take the form of posters which appear right the way across campus, which has had really surprising reactions and kind of run much deeper than we perhaps imagined in terms of the impacts and the reactions of people on campus that we've gradually found out about over the course of a year.
I am Georgia Gendall. I am an artist working in Cornwall. What I do is I bring people together through event structures or sculptures or like process of making work. Mostly that accumulates with bringing people together or animals together or ideas together. Yeah, I wanted to make something very minimal but also something that like broke through the monotony of like all the other posters on campus. In terms of like what they said, that was very much just trying to find like one word or a series of words that instigated some sort of like bodily change in how people moved around campus or thought about what they're doing on campus, but most of them came from like thinking about the body differently, so like lie down or lean, but came from this like very absurd sign that's here on campus. There's like a roundabout and there's a sign on it that says walk on the grass, and normally that sign says do not walk on the grass. So there was this like this idea about like trying to break the rules of like what is you should and shouldn't do. Someone described them as like the mist of the project, which I think is really nice, like just that subtle like vapour that's like going through the campus that's like not really thought about or doesn't have to be thought about, but it's just like, it's just there and doing something.
So the posters were adapted into a sort of TV version with a slideshow of all the different actions, and we were told that there was a member of the FX Plus workforce who has been enacting those as they change on the screen in between cleaning corridors, and we had a really fantastic set of conversations with the team from Estates who helped us to install the posters at height, and they were inventing their own prompts for us, different things that they felt should be articulated or enacted. And we've also heard from academics who have taken the posters as starting points for teaching, and those kinds of reactions are in each individual way really exciting to kind of know have happened. We haven't been able to track or see them directly, but when you hear people feedback and talk about them, or even just going in to bar spaces or shop spaces on campus and asking to put up posters or set out flyers for events, and having an initial reaction which is we don't want more flyers, and then finding out that it's for tender acts and them going, oh no, we love tender acts. Those are the things that you don't necessarily see directly, but have been kind of evidence that the project has sort of filtered out in some of the ways that we've hoped it might. We also created a tender act station from a couple of wooden structures which we were very kindly lent by Claire Saunders, sort of repurposing them from another creative project. And the idea of that was to create a kind of signpost for exchange. We created some forms for exchange, which in the end didn't work the way that we wanted them to work, but actually helped us to kind of understand how we might have to approach working with people on campus in a different way. And the third thing we did was a series of collective actions where we invited different artists to come onto campus and create space for people on campus to come together and do something that wasn't a workshop or a creative activity that had an outcome, but was a way of exploring together, perhaps acting communally, side by side, not necessarily having to have conversations and discussions, but creating a space for thought and communal action. And those have been some of my favourite things that have happened. Most of them were quite small and quiet, but they really did bring together people from different aspects of life on campus, people who work within the estates team, students, academics in different departments, all acting together and spending time together in different spaces on campus.
Really nice to just get people to the garden, which I don't think people just skim past quite a lot of the time. And it was just a lovely way to spend time outside, talking to people and making really beautiful papers out of recycled materials. So that was a really nice way to spend time in the garden with people. This is one of the sort of instructions was whale that I wrote. So this is a sort of response to those instructions, and it sort of ties in with this idea of just bringing people really gently together and hoping that sort of is a ripple effect of just pulling all the corners of the university together.
Artist Rhys Morgan, he came and spoke to us about the queer heritage of sea shanties, and also helped us to create our own shanties about Penryn, about campus and about experiences here.
Working with Kyra Norman, getting people to move around the campus differently was it was so beautiful to watch people just rolling down a wall and just stepping differently, and it was just a really wonderful way to slow down on campus. Naomi Frears and Liam Jolly were two artists working in Cornwall that we both worked with before, but people that we wanted to work with on this project. And yeah, it started by us just spending a lot of time on campus together. We spent a lot of time in the cafes, walking around, and just trying to work out how we navigate the campus. And I think that's, if there's been a challenge to the project, it's like just like how to find people that are willing to get involved in some way. So we sort of came up with this idea of how to get people involved, and we sort of identified the societies as people on campus that were already doing something that was like extra already. And so maybe there'd be a group of people out there that would want to go that little bit further and engage with us, because it's really difficult to like, you don't want to be like boisterous or be like, come get involved in it. Like there was this sense in which the campus required like very gentle handling of some sort of collaboration, and that was something that we've been navigating. So we identified the societies as maybe groups of people that would want to, and also like a really interesting range of people doing really interesting things that you just have no idea is going on here. And so we wrote to all the societies and said, do you want to get involved in something? We don't know what that something will be yet, but just something. And there was a handful of societies that did want to. And that was amazing, because we didn't give them any idea of what it would be. They just were a group of people like, yeah, we'd quite like to know what that is. It's like just inspired some sort of curiosity.
From the campus as part of the Tender Arts Commission. Yeah.
The society is a civic thing, and it is a community. We make field recordings ourselves, and with the sounds from the societies, and working with Stu Blackmore. We have no idea whether it will bring people together, but it seems like something has happened, and it would be really nice if people came and listened and kind of enjoyed it. And they're all collected from either the people who are part of this campus or the campus itself. So it's like a soundtrack made by this place.
So sound then became like this kind of idea, and we didn't know what we were going to do with that. And yeah, I don't know how and when we arrived at Stage and a Silent Disco of sounds in the library. I'm really interested in how some of the work that we do can be kind of put in front of, everyday, in everyday scenarios for people to kind of discover and have encounters with contemporary art. For me, that's a really important part of my practice.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice. I thought the sound design was really interesting. It opened my eyes to all the sounds that I hear around me a bit more.
I think the surprise has been, and this is nothing against the campus, it's just like definitely a much harder place to get your teeth into than I originally thought. And that's actually a really great thing as well, because it teaches you to just slow down and listen and try and work with the space that you've got and the people that you've got, as opposed to trying to like put anything on anyone or any ideas on anyone. It just makes sure that you stay present and stay listening and stay responsive, basically.
This has been a really challenging project. Lots of the learning that I have from years of producing projects for different communities and sites hasn't applied directly here. Things that I know work in other settings just haven't worked. And I think that I've had to learn a lot about the complexities of communities on campus, and the layers that exist here. So there are really amazing people, really incredible bodies of thought, and proper communities who love to do things together and get joy out of the things that they do. But they exist in multiple spheres, and actually tapping into those spheres or interacting with them or trying to bring them together is much more complex than I had anticipated on coming into campus. After a year, I finally feel like I've got my teeth fully into this commission, and that there is just so much interesting scope for further research, but actually for outputs as well, and for things that could happen as a result of what we've learned over the time that we spent on campus, and actually relationships that I hope will develop to lead on to other projects in the longer term.